Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Srimad Rancharya Stotra Stotra Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Gaur Premanande. All glories to summon devotees. All glories to summon devotees. All glories to summon devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Guranga and Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so we are reading from the 11th canto, chapter 7, entitled Lord Krishna Instructs Uddhava, text number 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Shri Bhuta Shri Chanto Jnana Vijnana Nishchaya Payanmat Atmakam Vishvam Na Vipadyeta Vaipunam. Translation. One who is the kind well-wisher of all living entities, who is peaceful and firmly fixed in knowledge and realization, sees me within all beings. Such a person never again falls down into the cycle of birth and death. Text 13. Shri Sukho Vacha Iti Adishto Bhagavata Mahabhagavato Nipaha Uddhava Pranipataya Tattvam Jignasu Achutsetam. Shri Sukha Vacha Iti Adishto Bhagavan Mahabhagavato Nipaha Uddhava Pranipataya Tattvam Jignasu Achutyatam. Shri Sukho Vacha Iti Adistu Bhagavata Mahabhagavato Nipaha Uddhava Pranipataya Tattvam Jignasu Achyutam. What is this? Shri Sukuvacha, Shri Sukadev Goswami said, Iti, thus, Adishtaha, instructed, Bhagavata, by the Supreme Lord, Maha Bhagavataya, the exalted devotee of the Lord, Nripa, O King, Uddhava, Pranipataya, after bowing down to offer respects, Aha, spoke, Tattvam, the scientific truth, Jigyasu, being eager to learn, Achutam, unto the infallible personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, thus instructed his pure devotee Uddhava, who was eager to receive knowledge from the Lord. Uddhava then offered obeisances to the Lord and spoke as follows. Purport. Uddhava is described here as Tattvam Jigyasu, or desiring to know the truth. It is clear from the previous verse that Sri Uddhava is a pure devotee of Lord Krishna and that he considers devotional service to Lord Krishna to be the perfection of life. Thus the words Tattvam Jigyasu indicates that since Lord Krishna is about to leave the earth, Uddhava is most anxious to deepen his understanding of the Lord so that he may further advance in loving service at the Lord's lotus feet. Unlike an ordinary philosopher or scholar, a pure devotee is not eager to acquire knowledge for personal gratification. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Umilitamyana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutalaya Swayam Rupakadambayam Vedanta Swati Vanchakam Vanchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Bhavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let's repeat text 12. It says that one who is the kind well-wisher of all living entities, who is peaceful and firmly fixed in knowledge and realization, sees me within all beings. Such a person never again falls down into the cycle of birth and death. Yes. So there are many people in history who are the kind well-wishers of society. You find a lot of people who want to save the world, have their idea of how they're going to benefit society. And they have good intentions. It's not that they want to cheat people. They really, in their hearts, want to help. Like we look at Gandhi. He really wanted to help. He wasn't interested in his own sense gratification. But the problem was that although he was the kind well-wisher, he was not firmly fixed in knowledge and realization. So he had this idea, ahimsa, and because Bhagavad Gita didn't really agree with that idea, well then he said, Bhagavad Gita, that's just an analogy. It's not that there was an actual battle and Krishna's telling Arjuna to fight, because that's against ahimsa. No, Krishna is saying this is just an analogy of the inner battle within our heart against good and evil. Not that Krishna is a real battle and Krishna is saying that you should fight. No, that can't be. So I will come up with my own idea. So though he was a nice guy and he had all good intentions, still he had his own ideas. This is the problem. And similarly, you see Vivekananda. I'm sure he really in his heart wanted to help people, but what was his idea? Dadri Narayan. Yes, that all the poor people are Narayan. That we should serve all the poor people, which is good and well. But what about the exalted people? And shouldn't we hear from the exalted people? Aren't they also Narayan? So, like that, people have their good hearts, but like they say, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah. So having good intentions isn't good enough. We have to be situated in the truth. Similarly, we have Hitler. They had this idea of the Übermensch. They wanted to create this race of superior people to create this wonderful empire. And then you have communism. They want, everyone must be equal and everyone must have the same opportunities, everyone must be the same, and it sounds all very nice. And they're thinking generally in their heart, they're thinking, yes, this is what's going to help people. And so many modern politicians, a lot of politicians, they really want to help. They really have the sincere desire to help, and they really believe in their cause or their ideas. But because those ideas are not based on Shastra, what is it? It's just causing disturbance. Like we have modern people like Greta Thunberg, they really want to, they think that the solution to society is to tackle climate change. That if we just stop with all the carbon, then everything's going to be right in the world. We have Elon Musk, technology. That's the solution. If we just have more technology and more robots and more AI and we all go to Mars, then we're going to have utopia. We're going to have the best society. So these people are like karma yogis. Because you get the animalistic people, they're just interested in eating, sleeping, mating, defending their personal sense gratification. And then you get the religious animals praying to God for their sense gratification. And then the karma yogis, they're trying to save the world. They're at least on a bit of a higher level. But they're not, they don't take the time to actually wonder what is the truth. What is actually, are my ideas actually based on the proper foundation of truth? No, they're just having their own concocted ideas. They just assume that they are true, or they follow their own kind of thing. But yeah, that doesn't help. It doesn't help. Because we have to have that foundation, like it's described in the next verse, Tattva Jigyasu. We have to inquire, what is the truth? That's why a little higher than the karma yogis is the jnana yogis, because they are now inquiring, what is the truth? Well, they're not inquiring from proper authority. They're more like trying to find out the truth through philosophizing and speculating like that. They're trying to understand what is the truth. But the bhakti yogi comes to that point of really accepting the authority of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And then we can understand how we can actually save the world. And how can we save the world? Through bhakti. That is the only solution to the problems in society. Because all of these people are missing, even if we cut down our carbon emissions, and even if we have our super robots and AI, and even if we can all go to Mars, if people don't have character, if we don't have proper character in our hearts, how is society going to progress? You like the saying that if health is lost, something is lost. If wealth is lost, nothing is lost. But if character is lost, everything is lost. So if people don't have character in society, especially the leaders of society, if there's no character, then all of this wonderful technology and all of these wonderful things that people think are going to save human society, if the people controlling those things don't have character, they're simply selfishly motivated, interested in their own personal gain, then what happens to society? It is destroyed. It is destroyed. That is the foundation. And that is why bhakti is the only solution to the problems of the world. Unless people are try to cultivate their true nature of loving Krishna and not controlled by their lower nature of lust and greed and envy and pride, there can never be peace in society. There's always going to be conflict. It is just like if you have a pond of still water, and if the pebbles are all going into different places in the pond, then all the waves then clash against each other. But if all the pebbles are going into the same place, then there's harmony. Then all the waves work together. So this is, we see in society that people are very divided. They have very different ideas, and therefore there's a lot of conflict. And why? Because there's no jigyasu tattvam. We're not inquiring about the absolute truth. We're not going to the proper authority. We're relying simply on different mental speculations. And that's why Kali Yuga is called the age of quarrel and the age of hypocrisy. So why is there so much quarrel? Because there's so much speculation, so much concoction. Because people don't accept what is, they don't accept the higher authority. They don't accept Shastra. They don't accept what is proper culture, what isn't proper culture. It's all just your own opinion. Yeah? And no one's opinion is better than anyone else's opinion. Yeah? This is the idea that it's all relative. There's no absolute truth. And that is destroying society. Yeah, and we see even then within ISKCON that there's sometimes some conflict, some differing of opinions. Because those stones, they're not exactly going into the center. They go a little bit to this side, a little bit to that side, and therefore there's still some conflict. Because Prabhupada is the center. Unless we really accept Prabhupada's authority, Prabhupada is what keeps ISKCON together. He is the foundation of ISKCON. So unless people really accept Prabhupada's authority, then there can't be harmony. There can't be cooperation. So when Prabhupada was leaving this world, he said that all his GBC men must come to Vrindavan so that they can be with him before he departs this world. And his secretary said, "Sure, Prabhupada, I'm sure because they love you, I'm sure they'll all come to Vrindavan to be with you." And he replied, "Their love will be shown to me by how they cooperate after I have left this world to keep this movement together." So this is the thing, cooperation. And in Kali Yuga, obviously, it's very difficult. So there's a science of cooperation, actually. It's called game theory. It's the science of cooperation. And it basically works on this idea. Imagine that you have, it's called the prisoner's dilemma. So imagine you have two criminals and they're caught. They get caught by the police and they keep them in separate chambers to now interrogate them. And they want, obviously, the one criminal to rat on the other criminal, to defect. So if they're both criminals, if they both cooperate with each other and they don't testify against each other, then they'll both not get, then they won't get such a harsh sentence because they don't have much evidence. But if the one criminal defects and rats on the other criminal, then they say, "Oh, we'll offer you this deal. You can get out, but you have to defect on your friend." And if they both now defect on each other and just testify against each other, then they both lose. So this is called the prisoner's dilemma. So it would seem like the most logical thing is that you should defect. You should cheat on your friend, and then you get out, and your friend takes the rap. But the problem is that life isn't just a one-time interaction. There's multiple interactions. So if this person, if he meets the friend that he cheated on again in the future, well, then it's not going to be such a pleasant interaction. So these at one point these scholars, they devised this kind of they took this prisoner's dilemma and they devised a game. They put this prisoner's dilemma into a game where that if both parties cooperate, then they get 3 coins. If the one defects and the other one cooperates, then the defecting party gets 5 coins. And if they both defect against each other, then they only get 1 coin each. And then he asked different scholars around the world to contribute their strategies to play this game. Of how they could, these different, and it would be continuous, not just a one-off thing. They would keep on playing and playing against each other to see which strategy would win in this game. So all these different people, they submitted their philosophy, their different strategies in code, and then all the different things would compete against each other. So you'd think for a game like this, maybe you need AI, something that's going to really strategize some complex strategy, how to win this game. But actually they found the strategy that beat all the other strategies was the most simple strategy. And it's called tit for tat. So tit for tat means the strategy is a good strategy. Like some people have submitted cheating strategies, always trying to somehow defect, but tit for tat, he tries to cooperate. That's his default behavior. But if you defect against him, then he'll defect back against you in the next round. But then after that, he'll try cooperate again. So like that is called tit for tat. So he cooperates, but he's not a pushover. If you defect against him, he'll retaliate in the next round. But then he'll try to cooperate again. Yeah, and this was the best strategy of all the different strategies. And they even tried to do an evolutionary thing where the good strategies would multiply and the losing strategies would die off. And again, they found tit for tat would always win. But then if they put some noise in, that there was maybe some miscommunication, like maybe you thought the person was defecting against you, but actually they weren't. There was like a static, some noise, some miscommunication. Then the better strategy was for tit to be a little bit tolerant. He would maybe tolerate like maybe one defect before then he would retaliate, because maybe it was like a misunderstanding. So they from this research, they derived 4 principles of why tit for tat was the best strategy. So for one, tit-for-tat was a good strategy. He was always he tried to cooperate. He wasn't trying to cheat. He was intrinsically trying to cooperate. And then the second one was that he was forgiving. If you cheated against him, he would retaliate, but he wouldn't hold a grudge. Next round, he'll try to cooperate again. So because if he keeps on defecting, then it becomes now no one can win. And then the third one was he wasn't a pushover. It's not that you keep trying to exploit him and he's like, oh, I'm so humble, I'm so nice, you can keep exploiting me, he doesn't do anything. No, he retaliates also. He's not a pushover. And then the fourth one is simple. You can understand immediately what is how he's going to react. He's not like complex and maybe he's going to do this, maybe he's going to do that. His strategy was simple strategy. He's dependable, trustworthy. Not like he's got some complicated AI, or maybe he's in a bad mood today and he's going to defect in this way, like that. It was simple and trustworthy. So these were the four things that made tit for tat the best strategy. And then they've also studied why is it that cooperation sometimes fails. So one of the things why cooperation fails is that there's no future interaction. If interaction is just a one-off interaction, well then there's no benefit for you to cooperate. If you can just cheat someone and you don't see them again, it doesn't matter. And so that's why it's better to have, like when you see people when they live in villages, then they're much more respectful to each other, they're much more friendly, because they're going to see that person again tomorrow. But when you're in an impersonal kind of city environment, then people you're never going to see that person again. Like you're sitting on a plane, person next door to you, are you going to bother to cultivate a relationship with them? No, because you're not going to see them again, like that. So if there's no future interaction, then you're not motivated to cooperate. And then second is a loss of transparency or observability. If people don't know what you're doing, if they don't know if you're defecting, if you're exploiting or not exploiting, if you're giving or you're taking, if no one knows, well then you're more motivated to take than to give. Like here in the temple, everyone's living together and everyone knows what everyone's doing and everyone knows everyone's business. There's a lot of transparency. So therefore people are motivated to cooperate, because everybody knows what you're doing. But if you have a lot of privacy, then nobody knows. Yeah. So then it's less motivation. And that's why association of devotees is so important. The more you are on your own program, with no one can see you, no one is seeing what you're doing, then you're less motivated. And then the third thing is, if there's no punishment for defection, if people, if like in society you see that criminals are not getting punished, they're just getting away with it. You think, oh, why don't I also be a criminal? What is the harm? And then the fourth thing is people see that, you're working hard, you're doing your bit, you're cooperating, but you're not getting any reward. And then you see people who are cheating, they're getting rewarded. So there's inequality. You feel that the effort is not worth the reward, or the reward is sometimes random or not based on your endeavors. And then the next thing is miscommunication, noise. That sometimes there's misunderstanding and we think that someone is cheating or someone is exploiting, but actually they're not. Maybe we can't see the benefit in what they're doing. Like people often criticize the devotees. They say, oh, you guys, you're just, you're not contributing to society. What is the benefit? But they don't understand how important the Brahminical class is. That the Brahminical class in society are actually making the greatest contribution. There's miscommunication, misunderstanding. And then if simply the size of the group simply becomes too large, then, like I say, like if in a village versus a city, when there's just so many people, then all of these things increase, because you don't know who's doing what. We don't know. There's less future interactions. That's why this idea where we break up different preaching groups, different devotees have different preaching groups is a good idea. And then 7 is sometimes the temptation to cheat or exploit just becomes too big. Like it's like everyone's fasting, and we think, should we distribute the maha to everyone? Should we stash the maha? The temptation becomes too big to distribute the maha, and the maha suddenly, all the maha disappears, and maybe a little bit ends up in the to be distributed to everyone. And similarly, when you're in a position of leadership, there can be a big payoff to not following Prabhupada's teachings. There's a lot of people that want to hear, things that are more aligned with modern society's ideas of what is right and wrong. And there can be a big payoff in terms of getting cheap followers and money and fame if we just, deviate a little bit. The temptation to deviate can be very big. And then 8th is a loss of trust. If we don't trust the leadership, we don't trust the institutions, we don't, when we think, the government is corrupt, then what is the motivation to cooperate with the government? If you think they are cheating you, then you think, I'll cheat them back. There's loss of trust. And then the second one is where free riding, exploiting becomes like a kind of becomes like a norm. That everyone thinks, it's cheated and they're cheated. This is how things are. That everyone is cheating and I have to also cheat. So it becomes a norm. And then when you just get an influx of too many cheaters, people are joining your society with ulterior motives. They're not coming with proper motives. They're coming with other motives. They're not coming to give. They're coming to take, because they're not sincere. They have ulterior motives. So this is how cooperation is destroyed. And this idea of game theory, prisoner's dilemma, you find it in all kinds of communities, all kinds of relationships. Like here in the temple, if everyone decides that I'm not going to give, I'm going to take, then it falls apart. Or even if everyone thinks, there's more benefit for me of not donating to the temple, I still get to enjoy the facilities of the temple, and I don't have to pay for it. They're saying, that's beneficial. But then if everyone thinks like that, what happens? Then everything collapses. So this theory is quite deep, and it applies to a lot of situations in life. So, but of course, we know the best way that we can influence others is through our own example. Yat the charity stressed us that if through our own example, and if by sincerely trying to cooperate with the Lord that is in our own hearts, then that is really the best solution. Sometimes we see things and we're getting upset, and but what is it that we can change? What is it that we can influence? Can we influence others by criticizing them, forcing them, trying to... No, generally not. Our scope of influence, maybe we can see a lot of things, but our scope by which we can change other people is very small. But the scope by which we can change ourselves, that is much greater. So that is really the solution. We see a lack of cooperation is to ourselves become a better cooperator, a better servant. Like there's a story that this angel comes to this man and says, "Show me." The man goes to the angel and asks the angel to show me hell. She says, "Okay, I'll show you hell." And in hell, there's all these people, and they're around this big pot of prasadam, and they have these very long spoons, and they're all very starving and unhappy and suffering, and they're putting these long spoons into the pot, and then they're trying to feed themselves, but the spoons are so long they can't get the spoon into their own mouths, and like that. They're all suffering and starving, and they're trying to get these spoons in, and they're so hungry, but these spoons are just so long they can't get them into their own mouths. And then he goes to the angel, "Show me heaven." So he shows him heaven, and it's the exact same situation. But everyone's happy and healthy and well fed. And why is that? Because they're taking the spoons and they're feeding each other, instead of trying to feed themselves. Exact same situation, exact same pot, exact same material circumstances, but they're all feeling happy and well fed. Yeah? So this is the power of cooperation, as opposed to the power of looking for our own personal benefit. Yeah. So, and why is it that we're in this material world? Because we've refused to cooperate with Krishna. Yeah. So if in this life we can learn to cooperate with Krishna and Krishna's representatives, then we can become qualified to again return back to the spiritual world, where we can experience eternal bliss and happiness. Hare Krishna. So anyone has any comments or questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for a wonderful class. So we hear one pastime of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was in the morning walk, and throughout the morning walk, one devotee was completely silent, one not asking anything to Prabhupada. But then when Prabhupada was about to sit in the car, the devotee ran and came in between of the door and car and asked Prabhupada what is the most important thing in the Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said desire. So now you were telling that if
Prabhupada said what?
Prabhupada said desire.
Key desire. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you were telling in the beginning that there have been many people who had good intentions, but they did not have proper knowledge. That's why they could not contribute in a they messed up. So, but I am taking intention and desire to be same. So
yes.
If they had good intentions, and then why did Krishna not? Why did Lord not give them proper intelligence? Why were they in the ignorance, or why were they not supplied with the proper knowledge from within?
Yes, good question. So, in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the divine and demoniac nature, it begins with this verse about the demoniac qualities. And what are they? Pride, arrogance, conceit, basically the same thing, pride. So, because that pride is there, therefore they do not inquire submissively. Therefore they do not have. And then what does that chapter end with? Yashashridam Uchija Vatate Kamakarta Nasabsidina Smidavabtam is can't remember. That one who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. So some desire is there, but it's not enough of a desire that they're prepared to humble themselves before the spiritual authority and inquire with submission. So because of that pride, therefore they want to save the world according to their own speculated ideas, because they think, oh, I'm very intelligent, because of that pride. But when we're humble, then we will first understand, actually, I don't know how to save society. But that humility is missing. The desire to save and help people is there, but the humility to understand that actually I don't know how to save people, that I don't know who I am first. I don't know who I am. I don't know what happens when I die. I'm ignorant fool. But here I am thinking I have the solution to save the world. Yeah. So that is the issue, that unless we are humble and understand our ignorance and our foolishness, then only can we take shelter of people who are actually intelligent, and they can guide us, that we can actually practically be of service. Yeah, that is the problem. Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for nice class, Prabhu. So, the last story you mentioned about hell and heaven. So in the heaven, although the situations were same, but there was a very joyful atmosphere because everyone agreed to cooperate with each other. Now in our personal life, the egoistic mind, it says that okay, I will take the position of cooperating, but the joyful situation will exist, or it will appear when everyone else also will cooperate. But I don't have faith in it. So maybe I should reconsider cooperating. So how do we answer this dilemma?
Yeah, sometimes you try to be really cooperative, but you actually feel like you're getting exploited, isn't it? Yeah. So, so yeah, it's like there's this conversation where Prabhupada talks about we should not be too utopian. In the material world, there's never a perfect situation. There's never going to be that perfect situation where you are cooperating and everyone else is cooperating and everything is just heaven. Because we're in the material world, it's never going to be heaven. There's always going to be some mixture. So that's why we have to be like that bee and just focus on the honey. But if we so much focus on how things are not heaven, we just so much focus, look at this guy, he's just like this and that, and he's not qualified to be here, and he's just coming with this and that, and we're so much focusing on other people's problems and other people's issues, whether it's in our own mind or maybe it's true. But what can we do about it at the end of the day? What is the practical benefit to ourselves? There's no benefit. In fact, it is actually harming ourselves. We can't change them, and we're getting disturbed and unhappy. So at the end of the day, heaven and hell is in our own mind, isn't it? That in the material world, there's always this covering of Maya. Maya in our own hearts and Maya externally, and maybe we're always going to have some people we're thinking, maybe they're like this, maybe like that, maybe it's real, maybe it's not real, you don't know, But if we're always focusing on that negativity, then we're just disturbing our own mind. So So we have to cooperate as best we can, but also within reasonable limits, that we don't ourselves end up getting exploited, so some boundaries have to be there also, because then you understand this is not utopia, and there are people out there who are actually looking to exploit you or cheat you. So if we're too much in the utopian mind, then we will get exploited. We have to be realistic. This is the material world, so we have to cooperate, but also keep our eyes open and keep our wits about us. Is that okay? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, bro.
How we incorporate the hand of God in your analysis of this prisoner's dilemma?
Yeah, well, ultimately, everyone has to cooperate with Krishna. It's, basically, we are the prisoners, and we've chosen not to cooperate with Krishna, and therefore we're here. So if everyone cooperates with Krishna, then everyone is happy. But when we choose not to cooperate, then not to cooperate with Krishna, but we want people to cooperate with our own agenda of sense gratification, then there's going to be conflict. So like the demons, they also want everyone must cooperate. They also, every business is also trying to apply these same principles. But what is their ultimate agenda? It's not to do anything good for society. It's to do nonsense. So we have to be careful who we cooperate with. What is actually ultimately their agenda? What's if we associate with the crows, and they say, "Oh, come cooperate with us, come follow us thing, and we can all cooperate together and be crows and." Like that, or we can cooperate with the swans. Yeah, because ultimately the crows may pretend that they are cooperating with you, but can you trust crows? No, you can't trust crows. And ultimately, there's no point in trying to cooperate with crows, because a crow by nature is not cooperative. His nature is that he wants to exploit you. So you have to try and decide, am I going to cooperate with the swans, or am I going to cooperate with the crows? And we know the only place we're going to get benefit is from cooperating with the swans, because they have that foundation of truth, that they are ultimately cooperating with Krishna. But the crows, they're only cooperating with their own personal agendas. So, yeah, it's a good question.
So if we see the pastime of Samudra Manthan, it appears to me that this strategy of Tatya Anukampa works better than tit for tat and tolerance in the long run.
The pastime of?
Samudra Manthan, where demons were there and
where they're churning the ocean of nectar.
Keeping Krishna in center, they were just trying to please him, and
yes,
eventually they became Dayabhak.
Yes, that's a good pastime illustrating us. So initially, the demons were pretending to cooperate, because actually they wanted to cheat on the demigods. But they ended up getting cheated by Krishna. Yeah, so you can't cheat Krishna. Yeah, that's a good pastime illustrating it. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.